There are more miles of coastline in Greece than in the entire United States. And in the ancient world, it would have taken months for traders and armies to travel by land. So as shipbuilding technologies developed, as kings and emperors became richer, the ships of the ancient world grew in sophistication and size to a truly unbelievable scale. Floating battle stations, larger than a football stadium and carrying 7,000 troops, cruised their way across the high seas. Cargo tankers twice that size carried hundreds of tons of goods from one end of the known world to another, protected by high-speed attack destroyers with a devastating concealed weapon. These were monster crafts that pushed naval technology to the ultimate limit. But what technologies and advances in ship design enabled the ancients to build these extraordinary vessels and create the age of the supership? The story of innovative ship technology begins nearly 5,000 years ago. There was only one effective way to travel round ancient Egypt: the water.
The main means of transport in ancient Egypt was water, especially the Nile. You can start from Aswan, just throw a piece of wood. It will go all the way to the Mediterranean.
Without the River Nile, Egypt would not exist. Not only did it provide an adequate flow of water, but it was the main highway of the country.
One enormous problem the Egyptians faced was how to transport the massive blocks needed to construct the colossal monuments that stand still today.
Some of the largest wooden boats ever made were made to transport stone, notably obelisks from Aswan in the south of Egypt to the north of Egypt.
Here at Karnak, the Hatshepsut obelisk still stands at 97 feet tall. It is the tallest surviving obelisk in Egypt. But this single 350-ton monolith was quarried some 300 miles away at Aswan and brought to Karnak by a massive cargo ship.
These boats are hundreds of feet long. They are colossal structures. They are mega structures. They are some of the biggest moving objects that mankind has ever created.
It is estimated that this obelisk barge may have been over 311 feet long and over 100 feet wide. Over 2,000 tons of stone would have to have its weight distributed over the ship. These boats would have been made out of cedar. When loaded, the obelisk barge would have had a displacement of an amazing 7,300 tons. To provide extra strength, the vessel was built with several decks, with the ends of the deck beams protruding through the hull.
These Egyptian obelisk barges were the supertankers of their day. Just imagine a fully loaded obelisk barge being towed maybe by 20 or 30 boats, fully loaded with one, maybe two obelisks. These are colossal structures. The people watching from the riverbanks would have seen nothing like this ever before.
Along with its fleet that transported obelisks, the Egyptians carried cargo throughout the ancient world. Reliefs on the walls of a funerary temple at Deir al-Bahri show scenes of a large trading expedition to the land of Punt, modern Somalia, hundreds of miles away along the Red Sea. Over 3,000 years later, we can still make out evidence of massive stone cargoes transported right across the large and unpredictable Mediterranean Sea. But there are even more amazing discoveries that have come out of ancient Egyptian shipbuilding. On the Giza Plateau, site of the Great Pyramids, a ship has been discovered that has made us rewrite the history books on ship construction. It is a fantastic example of how advanced shipbuilding techniques had become in the ancient world. It was discovered accidentally during a clearance excavation at the Great Pyramid at Giza in 1954.
Nobody even thought that they were going to find about them. And then one day, they found 81 blocks of stones, just put like that. So obviously, there was something buried there. Impatiently, they went and dug a hole, and they peered through, and they saw.
81 blocks of stone were found buried near the Great Pyramid. As archaeologists began to dig, they found something incredible, a complete dismantled ship, superbly preserved in its airtight tomb.
They found about 651 main pieces.
The ship had been taken apart to be buried with the pharaoh, Khufu, pharaoh of Egypt, and builder of the famous Great Pyramid at Giza. It is no surprise that a pharaoh who built such a spectacular monument to himself would require the pinnacle in Egyptian building technology to carry his spirit into the next world.
If the Great Pyramid was a miracle in stone construction, the ship is a miracle in shipbuilding.
The Khufu ship is 200 feet long and made entirely of carved wood held together in a surprisingly innovative fashion.
The fantastic thing about this ship is not only the fact that it was found almost complete, but it's the way it was constructed.
But what ingenious technologies did the ancients develop using only natural material like wood and fiber to create a watertight hull?
These boats are constructed in a strange way. They are roped together. They're not nailed or pinned together as we would make boats today.
When the wood was swollen by water, the ropes would tighten and make the boat watertight.
So if there was a fracture between the planks of the wood, you make absolutely sure with no tar, no nothing, it would be fitted together and the ship wouldn't sink.
It meant that the boats were flexible, could be maintained easily, and could travel up and down Egypt and beyond and carry huge loads.
But how effective were the fiber stitches? Was this ship perfectly watertight? To help solve this mystery, we must journey 2,000 miles north to ancient Britain. In Dover, England, there is an amazing discovery that sheds new light on the way the ancients created super ships like the Khufu boat.
You really have to come either to the British Isles or to Egypt to see large plank boats at this time, which is early in the Bronze Age through into the Middle Bronze Age.
The Dover boat is a 3,000-year-old British boat that is only partially recovered and predates the Romans by 1,000 years. Over 32 feet long and 7.5 feet wide, it is a rare and valuable discovery. There is much we can learn from the Dover boat about ancient shipbuilding techniques that were used throughout the world during the Bronze Age.
The thing they share is that they have thick sculpted planks which are tied or lashed or sewn together. Now, it looks a very unlikely technique to us today, but it clearly worked.
Amazingly, like the Khufu ship, the Dover ship was assembled without any nails, rivets, or welding.
The use of stitching seems to be a very good way of holding timbers together. It's widely seen across the ancient world, and it looks as if it's a very good alternative to the nuts and bolts we might use today.
A modern ship is constructed by building a skeleton over which steel plates are fixed. But how would the ancient shipbuilders have constructed their hulls without the benefit of flexible steel and solid ribs? Experimental archaeologist Damien Goodburn is a specialist in the technique of boat stitching.
A Bronze Age shipbuilder would start with a half log. They split the log out of a tree, a suitable tree, using wedges like this replica one here and a big mallet like this one. And having got their rough half log, they then use tools like this one, which is a bronze axe or adze, halved it as an adze, and they'd use this for carving the plank to shape rather than bending it to shape as we would in more recent times.
With the Khufu and Dover ships, after shipbuilders shaped the plank and carved them to the right shapes, they then cut the edges to the joints and lashed them together with a super strong natural rope.
In the case of the Khufu ship, they've used some kind of plied vegetable fibre rope. In Northern Europe, they tended to use twisted branches of yew or willow. Once the winding's done, the next stage is to trim it, clean it, and then soak it at least overnight to soften the fibres even more, and then we end up with material we can use to tie the planks together. This is the method that would have been used on the Dover boat. The Khufu ship's a bit different. In some ways, it's a bit more sophisticated. The lashings are buried within the thickness of the timber. They don't go all the way through. It's a bit more watertight in some ways. But I think they would also have used some kind of beeswax in the joint, which doesn't seem to have survived for the archaeologists to find.
But how successful was this technique? Would these ancient ships actually hold together?
I'm standing next to a replica of part of the ship now, which we built as part of the study of the original ship. We're amazed at how rigid this system is. I mean, you can hit the thing quite hard and it hardly moves. And it's much more rigid than we would have thought.
The Khufu ship and Dover ship's construction technique has been proved to be extremely effective. The ships of the Bronze Age could travel great distances and were incredibly robust, with just stitches holding the planks together. As underwater surveying and diving techniques become more advanced, and we widen our search into deeper and deeper water, more wrecks will be discovered, more mysteries will be solved, and the sea will give up more of her secrets about the superships of the ancient world.